Okay. Very good morning to one and all. So, yet another Sunday, and we have yet another speaker with us. So, today we are having Ms. Pallavi Borgohain. She is a professional trainer in corporate communications and skill development. She is an experienced master trainer of the prevention of sexual harassment POSH laws, gender sanitization, child and women safety protection of children, women, sexual offense POSH. Apart from that, she is experienced in child and women counseling and a writer of academic books for the children. A criminal writer having competency in Hindi, Assamese, and English. As a legal practitioner, too, she is well versed with criminology, POSCO child, and family law. So, ma'am, welcome to IFBIC. So, you are on the screen. So, kindly take on this show from here.
Thank you, Amresh. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be a part of IFBIC and to start speaking. Am I audible to you all? Yeah. Say, it's a great privilege to share my feelings and talks with you all today. So welcome to the session. It might be a bit boring, but it's like it might be a bit boring, but I know like your participation will make it lively as well. So it's like as Amresh has said, like I'm Pallavi Borgohain. So I'm basically a trainer with POSH laws and other skill sets and capacity building for the corporate and other company and other organizations, where we help out in people to know the laws, what's related to company and different human resource issues and all those things. I'm just presenting you a very small presentation regarding the prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace, Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013, which is basically on the kind of like harassment a woman can face during her stay in the workplace, during her work hours or working workstations, and a kind of like what kind of harassment she might come across, and what the law says, and what are the pros and cons of all these activities, and what the employer should do, and what is employees are our responsibilities. I'm going to highlight on all those things. And firstly, I just want to say, like now, I just want to ask Amresh to share the screen, the small PPT. This is, let's go for the second slide. See, women work participation. This is like prevention of sexual harassment law actually started during in the year 2013. Like it came into being like in 2013. So ideally, I'll be focusing on prevention of POSH laws. But before that, I just want to give a highlight of women work participation in our in actually in the workplaces. Like almost 25.3% of Indian ladies are working in rural areas and 14.7% in urban areas. Then again, like how common is sexual harassment in workplace? So we have a small data about it. It's a TSB survey. 52% women experience sexual harassment at workplace, 25% touched without invitation, and 20% experience sexual advances. And now the question is, like, though the kind of exploitation is quite high, like only 1 out of 5 do report it, and maybe because of like they are scared that they might be stigmatized or something like that. So most, and maybe they don't want to go and get into mess, or might be they don't want to lose their jobs. So only 1 out of 5 people who are exploited, they go and report it. And the thought is like that the 80% thinks the outcome is poor and they won't be getting any good results, like good they will not be given good support or something like that. And 16% say that the situation worsened after they reported. And it really happens. My personal experience says In case when a woman goes and reports about rape or sexual harassment, either she has been looked down upon, or even in the police station, she might be getting exploited, and people try to put it like, see, just because your advances were not very good, because just because you are giving a lift to that person, or you are giving a chance to that person, so you get exploited. So ideally the blame is put upon the ladies. So that is why 80% of the people say that the outcome is very poor, and a lot of, I mean, things are not reported. Amrish, please change the slide for the next one. See, and I have already said how common is sexual harassment in workplace. 52% women experience sexual harassment at workplace. 25% touched without invitation, and 20% experience sexual advances. So when 20% experience sexual advance, that is in very like no, that's very unwelcome kind of experiences they go through. And 25% touched without invitation. They have been touched in different kind of areas which leads to more or less a kind of sexual advances. Next slide. And as I have already said, this is a TUC survey where it is reported that only 1 out of 5 do report it. And like 80% they say that the outcome is very poor and they don't want to go for reporting another kind of any help from the people. Now let us understand what is sexual harassment. Next slide. So sexual harassment is like any unwelcome act or behavior sexual in nature, and a subjective experience impact or not the intent that matters. So sexual harassment can be of different types. So it's not necessarily that yes, a person should go for some like a intercourse or that kind of severe kind of sexual activity, but anything, any other like no, any other advances like touching in different kind of touching in places where it is not welcome, where it is not necessary, I mean not acceptable. So it can happen in different ways. It can happen, it can be in a different way, like no, a different way that a person can be sexually harassed.
Are we on the right side right now? Pallavi,
No,
are we on the
no, please go for slide number 6.
which number is this?
And this is I think 4th or something. You go
Okay.
for sexual harassment includes.
Just yeah, okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
6 number slide is sexual harassment includes. What is sexual harassment? Like after that, what is sexual? I mean, sexual harassment includes physical contact. Physical contact in a sense like you are in the workplace and somebody suddenly touches your shoulder, not necessarily your private parts or something like that, but unnecessarily if a person tries to give some kind of physical contact, that also comes under sexual harassment. Some abusive sounds. Sometimes people has a habit of making different kind of weird sounds or different kind of embarrassing comments they used to pass through. So those things also comes under sexual harassment. Then some people again sexually colored remarks like sometimes they appreciate your physical things, they appreciate how you look like and all those things, even that comes under sexual harassment. Using sexually abusive language or signs in the presence of woman employee. One thing like we have been like most ladies I think they face, or most office atmosphere there used to be different kind of talks which are inclined sexually inclined in a sense they might be cracking some kind of jokes which are not appropriate to that atmosphere, and they use different kind of sexually abusive language in the presence of women employee. Even that accounts for a sexual harassment in terms of law. Showing pornography is again another thing. Stalking can happen both way around. Either you are a physical stalking, somebody following you wherever you are going, somebody trying to message you in WhatsApp all the time, despite your, despite your rejection. And sometimes like now you can see that you have been followed in every places where you are sending vulgar messages, jokes, emails, etc. Physical confinement touches against the will and like to intrude upon one's privacy. Demand or request for sexual favors. Again, it is a very, assumed, you can say it is an assumed or presumed practice in most of the organizations, in most of the workplaces. It is seen that people demand sexual favor directly or indirectly for giving some benefits in the professional field. So those things which are actually they should not happen in a healthy atmosphere. When there is when a company has a healthy atmosphere, when an organization is healthy, then you should not have those kind of those kind of advances that should be made, that should be expected from any of the colleagues or employees, whoever it is. So like the sexual harassment at offices usually includes implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment in her employment, implied or explicit threatening treatment in her employment. So sometimes like that, it happens the lady is put in such a situation that her boss or whoever is the senior to her, or whoever she is connected with the work, either they threaten her to be into a sexual relationship, and whether they threaten her to fulfill his whatever desire he expects in a sexually inclined way, and then he says that okay, if you don't do this, you will have to leave your employment, or those kind of things. Those also those kind of harassment also falls under sexual harassment as per the law. Then again, a threat about present and future employment status. Sometimes if you're not favoring them sexually, or if you're not favoring their advances, then you have been asked for, you might be even asked to leave your job, and interference in the work. So if the person is could not satisfy his ego, could not satisfy his needs, the employee always prefers treating her in a different way, and they used to interfere in her work by taking out loopholes, taking out, her inefficiency and those kind of things. Then starts treating humiliating way. So all those things like that accounts to sexual harassment. So pictorially, like we can see this you can see it. There are 4 or 5 pictures where we can say that though there is not actual sexual behavior happening, but this is something which we can relate to sexual harassment. They are doing some kind of physical touch. You can see in the picture, in the right hand side of the picture, you can see the person is putting his hand over the shoulders, and it's just above the breast. Then another one, you can see that it is the person was the employee who is the colleague, whoever it is, they are touching uh, near the bumps and all. Then another way is they're trying to create hurdles, and like different kind of unwelcome activities falls under this purview of like no, it falls in terms of like sexual harassment in terms of law. So I hope it is clear with you till now for this. So now what is the state? You see, sometimes people intentionally or unintentionally they fall prone to the sexual harassment. Or sometimes like now, sometimes you can say it is not always from one side, but it can be from the other side, other way around as well. Sometimes the woman is forced to do it, sometimes intentionally she gets into it. But in both way around, what is the same? Like your brand value and the negative publicity happens, and decreased moral and decreased efficiency of the employee as well. Apart from that, like now, since they get you stigmatized and they call you like now, if a lady is caught with all those kind of activities, then she is like now, he becomes like a talk of the whole community and all those things. So it's like that he gives negative publicity. Loss of money for non-compliance of provisions of law. So you can see Madras High Court has awarded 1.68 crores in damage to an employee for non-consideration of ICC. Now, if we come to the POSH laws, it is specifically mentioned, and it is specifically mentioned that under the POSH laws, there should be an internal complaint committee in every organization which has 10 employees or even below that. So it is a compulsory, it is a mandatory provision. So if an organization doesn't have a internal complaint committee, what we call is ICC, then they are prone to pay compensation. And Madras High Court has already uh, passed a judgment upon these. Like now, they have, when there was a situation of those kinds, they had to pay mandatory fines because of not having an internal cash, complaint committee. So now, from the point of view of a company or an organization, I would like to highlight on what is exactly is the POSH laws. So ideally, POSH laws came after the Vishaka guidelines. The Vishaka, now what is Vishaka guidelines like? Other guidelines was like earlier, those were the procedural laws that regulated the women rights and gender equality, ensured gender equality in terms of the fundamental rights of women, and like taking care of her modesty. Then when she is suffering from stalking, voyeurism, and those kind of other activities. But that laws were not sufficient to cover up the workplace sexual harassment. So as a result of this, there was a case in Rajasthan that is called, this is actually the background of the POSH Act. So like we already have laws in Indian Penal Code in section 209, 354, 376, and 509 of 18, where you have like stringent measures to deal with the sexual harassment of ladies in different arena of life, but exclusively to treat and prevent the sexual harassment at the workplace, it was the POSH laws has to be formulated in the year 2013. And how it came into being, like, so there was one Bhauri Devi. She was an activist, social activist. She was from Rajasthan, and she worked with the Nagar Nigam as a like na with the organization as I would say that she was a Satni. So Satni means she was as a part of her employment also, she had to work against the social evils that is happening in the organizations. At the same way, like now, she was a propagator and activist as well. So what she did is like in 1993, so she tried to prevent a child marriage of a small 9 years old girl of the Gujjar community. And since Bauri Devi was belonging to a very low community group, low caste group, she just because she tried to prevent the marriage, though the marriage happened, she has been gang raped by the Gujjar people or her whoever was living in her as a neighbors, and her husband was beaten up very badly. And now when it came to the law, that she did not want to like na nobody since they were a powerful group of people, um, they have been like released on bail, they have been left unpunished, but she never gave up the case and she started fighting. And later on, a lot of activists have joined for it. And ideally, after the Visaga guidelines, this POSH laws exclusively has been formed to prevent, prohibit, and redress all kind of sexual harassment that is happening on women in the workplace. Now you see like what the POSH log actually according to what employees should do. So Amresh, we should go for the 12th number slide. You go for an according to POSH Act, what employers should do. See, every organization, how small its size or like size or numbers, you have to have a POSH committee. And there is mandatory training for POSH, and awareness should be done. They should contact the NGOs or whoever the activists working for the for women safety and gender equality. They should call them and they should train their people and make the employees aware of what are the POSH laws. And again, like the employer have 10 and above number of employees must be have an internal complaint committee, and for less than 10 employees, a local complaint committee is mandatory. So there should be an internal complaint committee with a presiding officer. And who is the presiding officer? Like na, they have the presiding officer should ideally be the senior most employee of the organization, and ideally she should be a woman. And 1/3 of the members should be always a woman. And in order to stop the biased kind of if you want to I'm a prejudiced kind of judgment, so they have to enroll another one person from outside. Outside means it can be from an NGO, it can be a law practitioner, it can be a social activist, or whoever is interested or whoever has a knowledge about the sexual laws, and whoever is interested in like promoting the women and gender equality. So the external member is there in the internal committee just because to ensure that there is no biased kind of judgment after such complaints come to these people. Then, and another thing is that the POSH committee should comprise of like 50% female members. And ideally their responsibility is to like now they have to take up the matter and inquire within 90 days and provide a report to the chairman, and then accordingly the actions are taken according to the service rules of the organization, as per the service rules of the organization. And if the person wants, like if the person is eager to complain it in the take further actions, then with the with the internal committee or whoever is the chairman, he is supposed to help that lady out to register the complaint in a police station. That is how like the internal committee is to do work. Then now see in the law itself, they have defined who is an employee. So now who are covered, like who is an employee, whom we should call an employee. Employee means a person employed in a company for work, and that includes regular, temporary, or even in ad hoc or daily wage earners, either directly through an agent or without knowledge of the principal employer. So everybody falls under the definition of employee who is either temporary, who is either daily wage earner, who is in ad hoc basis, or a third party employee. But only thing is that he has to be working with that organization, whether for remuneration or working for a voluntary basis. If somebody is a volunteer, even in an NGO, or if your maid is a volunteer, if your house help is a volunteer at your house, even he falls under this law. Under the purview of this law. Whether the terms of the employment are express or implied, and the contractor, co-worker, probationer, apprentice, or so-called any other some name. So in terms of employee, it covers everything. And now what is workplace? See, workplace is basically, in simpler terms, we say that workplace is the office where we work. Like it may be the corporate office, it may be the institutional establishments, it can be the premises, local establishments, or whichever place the business is conducted. All other premises where the company employees visit, that is also workplace. And also the transport facilities. Like if the company is providing you a transport facility, and during her travel, if a woman is suffering from some kind of some or the other kind of sexual harassment, then that also falls under the purview of the POSH laws. So now most important thing is that so I hope it is clear to everyone, like what is workplace and what is employee and everything.
Yes.
So now I think like most important thing to know is like now prevention is like better than cure. So how we go for the preventions, like, so how can we prevent it? See, these are some of the natural instincts. Some are ideally they are psychologically imbalanced, or either they are habituated, or some are intentional, or some are non-intentional. So you really don't know what it is. So as a measure of prevention, like what we are supposed to do is, like in any organization, the internal committee is a must, which I have previously also talked about. And always there should be in the notice boards, there should be it should be displayed the regulations related to sexual harassment and the punishments thereafter. so that people subconsciously get into their minds, okay, see, if I do this kind of thing, or if if I commit such kind of mistake, so what will be my repercussions? So that has to be played in a prominent place where every employee can see it. Apart from that, the members of the internal committee should be listed, and it should be pasted in different notice boards of the office rooms along with the phone numbers, so that the victim can contact them confidentially whenever and wherever they required. So as I have already said, see, when you see the penalties, when you see what are the repercussions going to happen to you when you do kind of mistakes, so people subconsciously develop in mind not to do it. So it helps in prevention. And another thing is that if you organize awareness workshops, the employees which are not aware of what are the laws and what can be the consequences of such an offense, so they start developing kind of interest on those things, and they will be like, they will know what actually they are supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do. Like again, now I would like to again highlight like what is the work of the internal complaint committee. So as I have already said, the employer needs to constitute an internal complaint committee to and what they does like ki, uh, thank you, Divakar sir. It's like to conduct inquiry of the complaints of sexual harassment. So what are the responsibilities of internal committee? First of all, they start getting, once they get the information, it is their responsibility to conduct inquiries, and in unbiased way. It can be in a different way. They can call for cross examination, they can call each other together, or they can even call individually both the complainants and the complainer. So both of them can be called together, respondent, victim, as well as whoever has done the mistake, to make a recommendation to the board of directors of the company in matters of sexual harassment after conclusion of inquiry, to the and make an annual report according to the provision of the act. So after completion of the inquiry, you have to make, what you have to do is that an annual report is supposed to be prepared and should be sent to the company directors. If it is a company, then to the directors. Suppose, and now the question comes like, now where will a maid go? Suppose one of your maid comes to your house and she is exploited sexually by someone or the other. It may be an outsider of your family, it may be somebody from the family. Where would she go and complain? So there is also the provision in RWS. Residential, if there is a residential welfare association, they should have an internal committee. And if there is no residential thing, they have to go to a local committee who is usually headed by the district commissioner or the district magistrate. It is a Supreme Court guideline to have mandatory local committees as well. And you can see like the inquiry period is like 90 days, and the power of the internal committee is as equivalent to that of the civil court. And like when when companies found to be a default, like you have to maintain confidentiality. If I am a victim, if I report it, I'm supposed to make the I'm supposed to make a maintain confidentiality. So if I don't maintain, you will be penalized with you will penalized with fines ranging from 5,000 to 50,000 rupees. So that is what you can do. And like what employees should do now, like how can we prevent them? Like when you are an employee, suppose you are an employee and you are a victim of such kind of harassment, so you should not ignore it and hope that it will go away. So we are not supposed to ignore it. If such situations come, once it happens means it always happens. So it is always good to say a full then and there. You must be knowing a very recently the Me Too campaign has started, where lot many people have been pulled into all those like sexual harassment things and all. So those things, if it would have put a full stop right at the beginning, it might not happen in the future. So once once any of the employees think that such kind of things are happening, whoever it is, either you are an observer or either you are a part of it, it's always there like you have to put a full stop, and you should not ignore it, and you are not supposed to, you should not blame yourself, and you should know how to say no. And another thing is like for prevention, you should speak out how to speak out. If you're suffering from something, nobody knows what you're suffering from until and unless you speak it out and tell your seniors for proper remedies. So now, what are the remedies? Any agreed women employee, the remedies, what are the provisions of remedy X law? What they can do is like give a written complaint and write a grievances and keep it on the uh, and put it like this, put it on the box where there is like where those complaints are heard, or you can directly write to the internal committee in the phone numbers and then put a complaint, and within 7 working days the ICC is, I mean, the internal complaint committee should send a notice to the person against whom the complaint has been made. Then the person is supposed to then file in written form whatever he has to say against the accusations that is made for him. So that is basically the procedure and remedies what it is given. So as you have seen, I have already mentioned that the contact details of the ICC has to be displayed in the organization, prominent places, at the prominent places for the notice boards. So now any aggrieved person, they can file a parallel with the in the prescribed contact details, and within a period of 3 months from the date of incident of sexual harassment that has happened. So, and she has to make almost 6 copies of the complaint. He has to write clearly the names of the person who are the respondents. That's how he has to go. And who can complain now? Who can file a complaint? The person who is aggrieved. And now see, there's a definition of the aggrieved woman also. So who is an aggrieved woman? So aggrieved woman is basically the person who became prone to the sexual harassment. So sometimes what happened is that some ladies are very, I mean, introvert kinds, and they are like very scared. What will happen if they have to go? She might be having some other, I mean, majburi to not to do it. Either she's scared to lose the job or something like that. Or either the person who has exploited her must be very senior to her, or it might be the head of the organization. So sometimes they are very scared of doing it. And this can be helped out by her family members or somebody who is a close friend of her. And the complaint even can be filed by the person who has seen it or who have a knowledge about it. And when suppose a sexual harassment has happened, and within that period, before 3 months or after 3 months, whatever it is, the person has died. Then in that case, the family members or legal heirs, with her consent, with the written consent of the who knows about the incident, they can file a complaint. Then what is the procedure of inquiry? Like upon receipt of the responses from the respondent, I mean, as I have already said, when somebody complains about a particular person, he has to explain his innocence or whatever it is. He have to explain the incidents in a written form. And after receiving the written, after receipt of the responses from the respondent and the complainant, the ICC shall conduct a hearing where both the complainant and the respondent shall be heard in person. So what it does is like, once they get the written explanation or written things, why he has done it or what was the situation, then they call for a hearing, face-to-face hearing, where both the person, the respondent and the complainant, both has to be there, and they are asked questions, they are cross questions, and they are given opportunity to put their, I mean, their side of the story in front of the complaint committee. Then during that period, the employees are supposed to cooperate with the people, whoever is the complainant or respondent, because unless you are proved guilty, you are not guilty. Upon completion of the hearing, the ICC shall prepare a complete report. After this, they are supposed to make a report so that what kind of punishment can be done. It is like done. Punishment for malicious complaining or false evidence. Sometimes what happens is like when a lady, not only when a lady or whoever is the employee, they might be having some personal grudges against the person. So sometimes what happens is like they put some kind of false complaints also. In terms of false complaints, what is going to happen? If the respondent proves that the complaints put against him are false and malicious, then the complainant is liable to get punishment. So how she is punished? Disciplinary actions can be taken, she can be terminated from the employment, or engagement of relationship with the company. She can be terminated in terms of both monetary benefits, in terms of her job, and in fact, disciplinary actions can be also taken. And when it is a severe kind of complaint and a lot of mental harassment is done to that person, in that case, she can even go for, that person can even go for go to the court and ask for compensation claims. So, any questions?
I think we can complete first, then they will be
So
questions.
now the thing is that we should not assume that if there is any lack of absence of complaints doesn't mean that there is lack of harassment in a company. So every person who is running a company, who is running an organization, who is at home, you should know, we should keep our eyes open, ears open, and we should try to find out whether actually everything is right in an organization, or everything is going good in my organization. Whatever is happening, I know it perfectly. Nothing is wrong, nothing wrong is happening in the organization. So the suggestion, an organization should always be like that. They should refrain from any employees like the behave for see before coming for a redressal point of view. Prohibition and prevention is much better. So some things every employee has to follow, or every employee has to inbuilt in their character, that we should refrain from behavior that may offend or hurt people. One thing we can do, that behavior that cause harassment to any any woman or employee in your workplace should be avoided. You should not interpret by another as sexual harassment. Behavior that may support sexual harassment in any manner should be avoided. And disbelieving a woman when she shares about harassment, remember that sexual harassment is an unwelcome behavior. So usually what happens in our society is like when a lady tries to complain about it, then it usually the doubt goes to her that sometimes if she's complaining, either her friends start avoiding talking to her, or either the friends start looking down upon her, or looking it in a different way. But it should not happen. So it is always good that you should be supportive to that person, and you to listen properly and analyze the pros and cons whatever is happening. So you should not involve in trivializing the matter of sexual harassment. Filing or supporting malicious or false complaint. So when you file or support a malicious complaint, so it can be both way around. It can even kill the reputation and be negative publicity to the person on which the complainant is, complaint has been done. So it is always good that we should avoid false complaining and all. So what companies should do and employees do to prevent? Create a strong sexual harassment policy. Whenever you have established an organization, you should have your strong and very stringent measures to deal such kind of activities that might happen in your organization. So you should have some kind of stringent policies to to curb those kind of happenings in an organization. Prominently display the Sexual Harassment Act 2013 committee members' name and phone numbers to be given. So you should very specifically mention in prominent places in the notice boards of the organization, where you should clearly mention the names of the internal committee, and another things like what can be the punishment if such kind of activities happen in an organization, or include all sexual harassment and causes and implication in all your offer letters. So when you're running a company, when you employ somebody, you have to very clearly mention about what are the terms and conditions upon which you are giving an appointment, and what are the measures you are going to take when such kind of mishappening happen in your organization. Like for example, like now you may not like love relations in an organization, so you should be very specific about no, we are not supporting this kind of things, and we are not supporting this kind of things that might lead to sexual harassment or sexual kind of behavior. So this is how it is done. And you should encourage the women to speak up so that they don't remain dormant, they don't remain scared to work in an atmosphere, and prevent retaliation. Usually what happens in it's natural human nature that when you complain about a particular person, he retaliates, and he is always in a way like always in a his mind is like in a revenge mood. So you should not let him to retaliate, and the protection of the woman or the complainant is the responsibility of the employee. And what women should do. And now see like both way around, it is not always the person who is like not always the person who is doing sexual harassment. There are some kind of demerits in the part of ladies also. So instead of going to a redressal point of view, you need to put a prevention, you need to take preventive measures right before the things are happening. So what a woman couldn't do is like avoid informal means of communication. For example, like every organization have a formal means of communication. Like what they used to do is like they will be communicating everything through emails or WhatsApp or emails. That's a formal way of communicating. Earlier it was letters or whatever documents they used to put in a hard copy, but now it is like now it's emails. So whenever a male member wants to discuss something through your uh, with you over the phone or WhatsApp or whatever it is, the only things he can decline is like, kindly please put it in a mail so that I can have a discussion. So this won't lead you to unnecessary discussions, thereby leading to such sort of closeness and sexual advances. And discuss your demands taking over the job. This is exclusively I'm talking for the woman. Like when a woman takes a job, she should be very specific about her demands. Like see, woman's timing, she has to look after the family and other things, and she has certain priorities of life which she has to do also. So she should be specific. If the job demands her to stay after a period of 10 o'clock at night, she should deny the job then and there. So that such situation never happens. You might become prone to sexual harassment or those kind of untoward situations. And you can even separate your personal phones and your professional phone numbers. Never ever laugh at inappropriate jokes. So it is like it is again human tendency. You have a lot of things you discuss which are sometimes very slang, very good, and sometimes very bad as well. So when you are a woman, you should take care of your modesty, and you should take care of how to keep yourself away from all those things. And you are not supposed to give and laugh at inappropriate jokes. And whenever you are in a group and when you feel that okay, something not appropriate is discussed here, you should not give a green signal to all those talks. By laughing, it shows that you are consenting to it, and you are like you are giving a kind of like okay, you are giving an consent to listen those sort of things, and you are ready for listening anything. So one simple talk can lead to some other things, and then slowly it can lead to some kind of sexual behavior as well. Do not hide. Most important thing is that if you're suffering from such kind of things, such kind of sexual harassment, if you are prone to it, you should always go for you should speak out to the closest person always. And most important thing is that we should set an example for others. We should be a professional all the time, be supportive to people who wish to talk to us, direct them to appropriate persons so that they can complain and their things can be sorted out, and demand that the harassment should be stopped and report the sexual harassment to the responsible person in the organization. As an individual, we can help the sufferer in those ways. So now I would like to say, Kit, what actually we do in POSH laws. Like since it has been a mandate, it is a mandate. Since it is a mandate, since you are supposed to have an internal committee, since awareness is supposed to be organized in all of the organizations. So as a POSH trainer, we organize full day and half day workshops and consult and create awareness among the employees. That's the end of my presentation. I hope you could learn something or whatever it is. So at last, I would say any society that fails to harness the energy and creativity of its women is at a huge disadvantage in the modern world. This is something which is told by a journalist. So he was like, Naki, when the lady is not respected in a society, that means the society is not in a progressive stage. That's what we can say. Thank you.
Okay, I have a first question here, Pallavi.
Yeah.
What I have seen in the corporate culture, people talks very motivational, but when it comes for the women, they make them the very soft target. And as you have already said that there are lots of pressures on the women, just like having a good salary, having a promotion, types of things are there. So, do you think that every time only the ambience that is created by the males are responsible for that, or women are also taking the advantages of such situations? They are also
I
responsible. Yeah, I'm
I
not over with my question. The question is that do you think that women are equally responsible for creating such types of ambience?
Yeah, of course, I would say that I have already told you. See, if a woman is there, I told in one of my slides I have mentioned that before taking up a job, you should be very specific about your demands and necessities, where the time you can spend in the office, the kind of work you want to do, the kind of things you want to do, and you should not give a. I would say that woman is also equally responsible for those type of ambience. One thing like their dressing sense, the kind of signals they pass, the kind of body language they use. And another way, like if you see that there is some inappropriate jokes going on, and you can see the ladies participating uh, wholeheartedly. In that case, what happens is a kind of a kind of green signal goes. I said it's a go ahead. You can say. So if the woman doesn't avoid those things, she can easily be prone to anybody's harassment. So that's how it is. So you should know how to be professional. So until and unless you are a professional, until and unless you stick to your professional norms, and you you can avoid such mishappenings. But if you are not, and you can see in various cases, like women are not exploited. She herself become she herself take those opportunities as a step. I mean you can say that it's more or less like a ladder to climb up for higher heights and all. So that's what happens. So that is both way around actually. So it is like that the prevention and prohibition should happen from ladies side as well. Though the law is very stringent for the law is favoring the women in a way, you can say. But at the same time, in genuine cases, it may be the male member who is doing it. But in most of the cases, there is also a 30-40% percentage of responsibility that goes to the women as well. See, it is not always the male member.
So, any further questions from our member? I think people are done with the questions now. So, if there is any question, they can raise a hand, or I can invite Alok to conclude the meeting. So, finally, I will be inviting Mr. Alok to conclude the meeting, and it was a wonderful session with you. And hope the people who are very much interested, because this has been a very serious, issue with all the organizations, not only the organizations we have seen on the schools levels. The students have been molested by the teachers, and the respectful dignitaries have been pointed out on this such types of things, because being a motivational is another thing, performing, doing the motivational actions are another thing. So it was really a wonderful conversation, and it was really a wonderful presentation with you. So I would like to invite Alok to conclude the meeting, and we will be having a next speaker on the next Sunday. So Alok, please, the speech yours.
Yes. It's like a very dreadful, inputs from ma'am. So, I have one question actually
Yeah, please.
before we, conclude. See, what happens is that, inside the organization, people are very much, they say that they are very working in a very healthy terms. But maximum of the organization, like especially in F&B industry, what they face is that inside they are very disciplined, but once they are out of the organization, though they are an employee, okay, still they face some kinds of harassments. Later on, what comes in that is like, this company's employee was mixed up with this. But in the law, it is clearly mentioned in our F&B law, is like, once you are out of the uh, out of the premises, okay, we are not responsible. So yesterday I was creating all this, though we create every year, okay, though we create every year, every uh, possible rules and regulations we maintain, right? But still what happens is that the company's let's say name is been let's say harassed, right? Or the name comes into a limelight. Okay, so what you have to say, or what can be implemented such that that we as an uh, organizers are not into problems.
See, I will tell you one thing. As Supreme Court suppose if you are into problem, I'll tell you one thing. If the girl or a boy, whoever goes to a marketplace, suppose she is on duty. Okay, she visits this place because she has some work, and that is a company related work, and there she gets something which is like that she gets exploited or something. Even that falls under purview of the company law, I mean the POSH laws. Still it is a workplace. Suppose I go and sell, see, I'm a delivery girl, for example, I'm telling you, I'm the delivery girl, you are the shop owner. I went, I delivered some kind of vegetables or whatever you say, some kind of products to one particular person. So I got molested there. So still, what is that? That is her workplace because she went to deliver that one. That also comes under the company things. And now you see, already since there should be an internal committee. So every organization is mandatory to have an internal committee. And if you are less than 10 members, then you are supposed to go for a like local committee. And local committee is supposed to be headed by the magistrate or the deputy commissioner, whoever it is, with all the members from NGOs and 2 members, female members, who are like a social activist. Now, what happens is that it is everything on papers. So that's why the laws needs to be made aware to more and more people. That's why the training, and you are supposed to organize workshops very frequently to prohibit such happening. So you should invite outsiders or people who want to, like, people who are interested in doing all sorts of activity. I mean, there are activists who are interested in imparting knowledge, creating awareness on all those things, and counseling as well. So once people become knowledgeable to the things, some things are human instinct. You cannot help it. Agar somebody is very interested in having some kind of, you can never prohibit. Sometimes it is consensual, and sometimes it is not consensual. Sometimes it is not consensual. But only thing is that by creating awareness of the laws, by creating awareness of the measures what we can take, by creating awareness of creating a moral value and self-awareness with among the employees, and by us teaching them how to remain disciplined even without this web, because it's a negative publicity again, negative branding for the organization as well. So that has to be inbuilt in their minds, and that can be happened by workshops, like kind of workshops you organize and kind of things you can tell. You cannot just be like a moral police and ask him not to do all the time. That cannot happen. Only thing is that educated people have educated, or whatever is, even if they are not educated, wise people they at least know what they are learning. So you can at least create awareness of among them. Okay, this can be the consequences after having going for such kind of things. And company is always at stake. I'll tell you, if you don't have an internal community, you will have to pay compensation to the government if such situation happens. Very recently, I went for a training in an organization. After 3-4 days, my friend became a external member of that organization. And from that organization, only one person has been accused, and he has been punished officially. And when the punishment happened, before that, there was an internal committee, and they had to pay a compensation of around 50 lakhs rupees because of it, because internal committee was not there. So we are still not conscious about these things. But this time, Supreme Court has specially put up some paper. I mean, they have like the government has put some budgets as well for creating awareness among POSH laws and POXO as well, child and women safety as well, child and both those things. So only thing is one thing we can do is create more and more awareness among people, and as a when there is a small child to aap dara dete ho. Yeah, you just make him scared. Chalo, if you do this, you can happen. This can happen. Once people starts knowing what can be the consequences of that, people avoid. People start avoid. At least instinctual things they will avoid. Deliberately, they will not be doing something. So this is what we can do, I think.
Thank you for your inputs, ma'am.
Thank you.
So there are lots of glitch actually. What happens?
Yeah, it's a long debatable topic actually. It will take longer times. Not only ladies are exploited, I feel sometimes that there should be some mandatory laws for men as well. Protection of men's harassment as well. Don't you think so? Yeah, of course. I feel that way sometimes.
We are running out of time. So Divakar sir is having a question. So Divakar sir, please ask your question, and after that, Alok, please conclude.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great piece of information, and it is really required to be addressed. And the main thing is that something like a disease. What we need is the root cause. Basically, while we are from the upbringing in the schools, there is a gender bias. Okay, how they treat people. So this has to be very, very take such a ground up level. It may take like a disease to spread, till we are TB is going to be in India in 2025 or 2030. Something like that. We should have a long-term plan, and all the measures. See, after the disease there inside, probably you are trying to do the cure. It may be very difficult. That is one activity, but definitely what I believe that in the school level, in education, in the behavioral and gender bias, if that we start addressing, definitely there is going to be some change down the line. And as you may,
actually, we have already
and
started.
as you mentioned, the punishment has to be. As you mentioned, the punishment has to be very, very clearly exposed and revealed to the rest of the people in the organization, so that I think these things cannot be repeated. The outcome of any complaint has to be published in the that monthly newsletter. There are things are there what organization does, so they should be able to bring up this and make it very visible, so that slowly that fear will be. But definitely great of information. It is really needed, and thank you so much for that, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful input, which is it's like a recap to many people, and I learned many things, because in our industry, lots of things happens which is unethical, but still it's like a very big history is there with a mystery. So it is always said in our industry. So it's a very healthy input which I have learned and many people have learned. So thank you so much for your inputs, and it was a very very knowledgeable session, and I wish that every Sunday we have some kinds of knowledgeable sessions, such that we expand our thoughts and the state of mentality what we have. So thank you so much, ma'am. And Amresh, over to you.
So thank you, ma'am, and thank you, everyone. So we had a wonderful information to
Very
you,
good
and you passed.
information.
Yeah, it's really needed, much needed for everyone, because the thing that we receive, or the thing we give to the society, that we receive same thing in the return. So if you are sexually harassing any women in our uh, our lifetime, the things will definitely come back to us, and it is a guarantee that our own family members might get harassed by some other people, and we won't be in that situation that we can go for any of accents because we don't have such type of history with us. So thank you. It was a wonderful accents, and really you have said that this is a very difficult topic. So if we go for the debates, no
It's
time is,
endless.
yeah. So
It's
thank you
very
very much.
endless and very,
So
very,
next,
very, very important topic to initiate always.
so
Thank
we will be coming up with the new speaker on the next Sunday, and most probably from the next Sunday, every member will be joining because Molly has been traveling Sunday, so he's not feeling well. So and some new members have also joined the IFBIC, and most probably on Sunday we will be touching the 100 members. So let's see. So thank you everyone, all the best, and we will come to the next next topic. So stay tuned, stay connected. Thank you.
you.